witness. Witnesses would please remain in the room until the questions from the committee have been completed. All testimony, questions, and responses must go through the chair. Everyone in the room is required to be respectful and courteous. Any videotaping or photographing is restricted to the designated area on the east side of the room. At this time, please check your cell phones and make sure that they are turned off. We're going to open the hearing on House Bill 639. Could I see a show of hands of how many people intend to testify as proponents on this bill? Okay. Do we have any opponents? Planning to testify? Okay. We've got about an hour and a half scheduled, for this hearing. Again, I would suggest that proponents keep your testimony in the 3 to 5 minute range. Otherwise, you're going to run out of time, and not everyone will get a chance to speak. So, I think with that, Representative Wagner, would you like to open on House Bill 639?
Members of the committee, my name is Bob Wagner, representing House District 71. I bring for you today House Bill 639. It's a sound money bill. By the way, you spell my name W-A-G-N-E-R. And Bob, you spell it the same forward as you do backwards. D-O-B. So, we're pleased to present a case for House Bill 639, sound money for the state of Montana. We have assembled a group of highly qualified, world-renowned experts on constitutional sound money to walk you through this process. We will help you understand the events that took us from a very stable asset-backed monetary system to a very unstable system of fiat currency. We will explain the reasons we need to return to sound money, the steps required to establish sound money, and the mechanism of a system to administer a sound money policy. We will show you how this system can be implemented with minimal impact on the continued use of the Federal Reserve note and the coin of realm, legal tender. Our object isn't to forcibly replace the Federal Reserve note with sound money. History and dynamics of a failing financial system will likely do that without any input from us. Passage of this bill will provide the option template and mechanism to give Montana a worthy alternative to insolvency should the existing Federal Reserve system fail. To provide Montana with an insurance policy of this magnitude for so little actual cost is fiscally responsible and the tangible demonstration of your commitment to our state and well-being of your constituency. With the exception of the deposit mechanism of the tobacco tax, the conduct of the state business will not be affected by this legislation. Tobacco distributors will be required to pay the tax into a gold depository account that will convert them into gold bullion. This will provide the seed money for a trust account owned by the state that will be backed 100% by gold and silver. The state of Montana will have one simple process put in trust, a percentage of its tax receipts that are actually backed by something other than faith and credit, of a system of fiat money rapidly running out of both faith and credit. The conduct of business using the proceeds of the tobacco tax will remain the same. No tobacco tax funded program will be reduced or eliminated. Should the Federal Reserve find a way out of their many complex problems and again become a stable system, the sound money account could be liquidated and closed at the discretion of the state. If, however, the Federal Reserve System becomes more unstable and the ability of the U.S. dollar to hold its position as the world reserve's currency becomes questionable, this sound money concept can easily be expanded to accommodate a larger portion of the state's budget. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I will sit down and let the witnesses that we've assembled, first and foremost, Mr. Edwin Vieira, constitutional law graduate of Harvard College, a world-renowned traveling person that lectures on a circuit briefed in these situations, and Dr. Lawrence Park, Executive Director of the Foundation of Advancement of Monetary Education. He conducts a weekly show in Manhattan and holds a PhD. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll sit down and let these gentlemen, if they've called in, have they called in?
Yes, and so Representative Wagner, your preferences, we'll do the folks who are on the phone first and go through those presentations, and at that conclusion, if we have time allotted, then we'll go to witnesses.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And so we're going to start, I assume, with the PowerPoint then?
No, we'll start with Mr. Edwin Vieira. He will explain the mechanism. He's the author of this template. He's the creator of this method of which we can secure our future. So
okay.
With Mr. Edwin Vieira first.
Thank you. Those of you who are on the phone here, if you would just identify yourself for the record when you begin your presentation, and then if you could spell your last name so we could also get that onto the record. So we'll hopefully we'll be able to get this all functioning. Again, identify yourself and spell your name, please, and then please start your presentation.
Yes, thank you. My name is Edwin Vieira, V-I-E-I-R-A. Since 1973, I have practiced law, graduate of Harvard Law School, with emphasis on constitutional issues. And for a great deal of that time, my main emphasis in study and lecturing, and to a certain extent litigation, has been the monetary field, with specific concern for the Federal Reserve System and alternative currencies or methods of dealing with the instability of the Federal Reserve System. I believe the committee has been provided with some extended remarks printed, so I will limit my comments here to what I consider to be the high points. As was said, in a sense, I am the foster father of House Bill 639 because it largely derives from a bill that I drafted for certain state legislators in New Hampshire several years ago. And at that time, the plan proposed in this bill was looked at as somewhat visionary, but now in many circles, I believe it's being recognized as rather prophetic. Here I shall address just three questions. First, what is the purpose of this legislation? Secondly, how does this legislation operate? And thirdly, why is this legislation necessary? This legislation provides the citizens of Montana with the option of conducting their financial transactions with their state government on the basis of an alternative currency consisting of gold and silver, rather than Federal Reserve notes. It establishes a mechanism through which the state can separate her own financial transactions from the Federal Reserve System, and eventually, based upon the state's actions, Montana's private economy as a whole could move away from dependence on the Federal Reserve System too. This proposal, I emphasize, is not a partisan political issue because everyone's most vital economic interests are equally at stake here. The provision of an alternative currency consisting of silver and gold will engender economic stability. It will return to Montanans the ability to save real wealth in the form of money that does not systematically depreciate in purchasing power. And with that, the further capability to plan and prepare rationally for their economic futures. The provision of an alternative currency will promote social justice. It will begin to rectify the wrongs that are now being perpetrated against wage earners whose standards of living cannot keep up with the systematic inflation built into the Federal Reserve System, against the elderly and the infirm who live on fixed incomes that steadily erode purchasing power, against those who are approaching retirement while watching the real values of their pension funds evaporate, against the poor whose only wealth is the small amount of currency that they may acquire from week to week or month to month, and against all the recipients of essential public services that the state finds it difficult or even impossible to provide to the requisite degree because the real values of tax revenues simply cannot keep pace with increasing costs. And the provision of an alternative currency will fulfill the state's legal, moral, and political responsibility to protect the safety, health, and general welfare of her people against an economic calamity that no one doubts confronts this country at the present time.